This topic, we're going to be talking about COVID-19. We're talking about protocols. We're going to talk about how it spread. We're going to talk about what you can do when you're working. We're going to talk about the tourism sector, all that sort of stuff. I think everybody's aware by now. And if you're not aware, it means that you're living somewhere else besides the world. That we have a pandemic on our hands, and that pandemic has basically, it has killed a large number of people. It has made an even larger quantity sick, and it has decimated some of our economies. In fact, right now, our economy, which was not the strongest in the first place, is now standing on peg legs. Now, to that end, a number of things are being done to shore it up. And one of those things is that we have to open up our economy, which means that we need to start letting the tourists back into Barbados again. Let's talk a little bit about COVID-19 first to set the foundation. Then we're going to start talking about what happened at the airport as the tourists come back, how we can move them through the airport, what measures we have in place. The first way is the direct spread. So I come up to you, I stand up to you within 6 feet. Now this is about me saying 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Correct. That's 6 feet right there from her. If I did not have on my mask and I had this conversation with you, some of my sputum, or otherwise known as spit or golf balls, would get you right in your face. All of us, it doesn't matter how well you pronunciate your words or enunciate, no matter how well you speak, how good your teeth are, all of us have, as Bajans call it, golf balls. Sometimes they're big enough to see, sometimes they're not. So I will let you know, if you have ever had a conversation with someone closer than 6 feet, their golf balls went in your face. It means that those bits of sputum, or what we call sputum, gets into your eyes, it gets on your nose, it goes in your mouth. And once that happens, if that person is carrying the disease, you'll get it. That's the direct way. The indirect way now is when I come here and I have a conversation with my friend, and I go, and I cough into my hands, and then I say, oh shoot, somebody just called me, can I borrow your pen? And I take her pen from her, and I write down a number or something. Or maybe I touch the doorknob, or the supermarket cart, or the minivan handles, the thing is hold on to. And now what has gone into my hands is now contaminating everything that I touch. Or maybe it's just my golf balls landing on her hands, or on the counter, on the table. Now what happens is that person, the next person who comes along, touches exactly the same area that I touch, or I put my golf balls on, my sputum on. And then they accidentally put their hand in their eyes, their nose, or their mouth. And in that way, the disease moves from me to an object to that person. And that's called the indirect way. Why is the indirect way so efficient? Or should I say, is it not so efficient but efficient? Because the average human being just can't keep the hand out the face. You can't. The average person puts their hand in their face almost 300 times a day. Either you're picking at your eyes, you're playing with your beard, you're digging in your ear, you're putting your hand on your face on the bench like that. There are some of us that like to pick our noses. You may eat a meal and something stuck between your teeth, and you put your finger in your mouth and you take it out. So whatever the case, we put our hands in our eyes, in our nose, and in our mouth, in our face generally, at least 300 times per day. And once you are putting your hand in your face, the possibility of you transferring something from the desk, from the doorknob, from the railings, from whatever, and you putting that in your face exists. I spend some time talking about that because I need you to understand that. Once you understand that, once you understand what I've just said, and I mean really get it, then you will see, or should I say, you will be able to make sense of all the protocols that we put in place. And you will be able to make sense of what you need to do. I said primarily 2 ways. There's a third way. There's a third way which people call, which is airborne. And it is because of aerosolizations of the droplets. Now, this is more for medical people. If I am performing a nebulization on you, which is a medical procedure, if I am performing a nasal swab on you, if I am performing a tracheotomy or something of that sort, which are medical procedures, the chances are that some of that virus can become airborne. And instead of just dropping out, because it only, when I hit my golf balls, usually go no more than 6 feet away. If I go out there and they do like that, I'll fall out. Airborne happens when it aerosolizes. Aerosolization means that it goes into some very, 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 very small droplets. They stay in the air, and they stay in the air for a long period of time. That is why when you see people doing the swabs up people's noses and so on, they have on the mask, they have on the shield, and all that sort of stuff. And then you have what a surgical mask is different to the normal mask that we have, because it's designed differently for that purpose, for aerosolization. So for us, the average person on the street, aerosolization is not a big concern. What does this mean for all of us now in terms of catching it? It means that you can't catch it if it gets up on your hand. If it's on your hand, you're not going to get it. It is on your hand. It has not entered into your body. How does it enter into your body? Through your eyes, your nose, and your mouth. If you had COVID and you cough in my hand, I can walk about all day long and I won't get COVID. I would now have to put my hands in my mouth, in my eyes and my nose. That is why hand hygiene is so important. That is why we tell people, make sure that you wash your hands regularly. If you can't wash your hands and wash your hands properly, use sanitizer, because we know eventually you're going to put your hand in your face. It does not seep through your skin. It does not seep through your hands or anything of that sort. It enters through your eyes, your nose, and your mouth. And those are the way it enters your body.
My question is, you said that you catch it through droplets and so on. Mm-hmm. Let's say, for argument's sake, that some person talking to me and the droplets go on my shirt. Mm-hmm. And I normally take my shirt and pull it over
your
face.
head.
Would I catch it from there?
All right. Very good question. You hold that for your time being till they get to you. The question is, if somebody coughs on his shirt or something like that, and he takes the shirt or pull it over his head, will he get it? Chances are no. The reason being is fabric like this one tends to absorb liquid. So the liquid is drawn onto the fabric. And while the liquid is drawn onto the fabric, the virus is also drawn onto the fabric. All right? So the chances of it getting into you. Now, if it was a real, let's say the body coughed on you, and then some sputum, like we put cool, no, land on you, and you do like that, and it's wet, absolutely wet, no, then the chances are there. But if it's just like a normal droplet, those fall on your fabric and they're held onto the fabric. So that is why you will hear people ask, how long can the virus live on different areas? And that is different for different, it is different for the type of surface. All right? The first thing you must remember is your mask, unless you are wearing an N95 or surgical mask, your mask, which is your mask like mine, normal cloth mask, the average mask that we all wear, your mask does not protect you. Your mask protects me. And my mask protects you. Remember how we said it is spread? It is spread via droplets. So I'm here giving this conversation, and all the time my mask is being filled up with my sputum, my little golf balls. If I take off this mask, now I'm going to start to spew them on you. So my mask is now protecting you from my golf balls. And when you have a conversation with me, your mask protects me. And that is why masks work so well, because a mask is a sense of responsibility. There's a difference between local spread and having a case. You will always get a case. Once airplanes are coming in, you're going to get cases. But those cases are identified at the airport and they're then transported straight to Harrison Point. So they don't get to mix in with the community and spread it around. Yeah, and I'm going to explain that process to you shortly. We haven't had a case, a locally transmitted case, in almost 2 months. Almost. Which is fantastic. There are very, very few countries on the face of the earth who can say they have done that. And we have done that here in Barbados. However, it has done some damage, as we can see. The economy is ailing, as with all the other economies across the earth. We have approximately 26,000 people, I think, or 24,000 people who are unemployed right now. Entire hotel sector has been shut down, and everybody to do with the hotel sector was seeing some money drop back. In fact, what I like to say is that the money get real boony all one time. So we have to now look at reopening, and that is what is about to happen. Commercial flights are going to come back to Barbados. Now, as my friend here rightly reminds me, once we start commercial flights, it means that persons who are coming into the island may have COVID-19. Not to mention that our source markets, our primary source markets, America, England, Europe, and Canada, are the places which we've seen most of the COVID-19 spreading. So what do we do? So a number of things were put in place because we can't stay closed. If we stay closed, the whole thing will fall apart. That's the truth. So we balance between opening and closing. We can't stay closed. These measures constantly change because the situation is fluid. And the reason for that is we are now learning more and more about COVID-19. The more we learn, the better we are able to protect ourselves and our country. All right? So you may hear that we are doing one thing today, and then 2 weeks later you hear we're doing something else. And you say, well, why would last week you tell me one thing, this and that, and that? Because things have changed. When we first started out, the idea was they told people, we didn't advocate, we didn't say don't, we did not advocate people wear masks. Why? Because there were so few, and because the more masks were available, the N95 masks, the masks that the surgeons and people who work in the hospital wear, that we did not want people to run and go and buy up all of them, and then the hospital they had none. We couldn't find any. And that was the big fear, honestly. So, but then when we realized how more and more how disease can spread and so on, we realized one of the most important things in reducing spread is wearing masks.